My good people, hi and how are you? Welcome back to Tsalwa YouTube channel. Here we are about vulnerability, acceptance, and hope. We hope this episode finds you well and blessed by God. You know, one of the things that gives me joy all the time is to know that God is with me, regardless of where anything finds me, regardless of the situation. I don't know where you are watching this episode from. Probably you could be sleeping, probably you could be low, probably you could be on a matatu or in the office. Whatever this episode finds you, just know that the Lord is always with you. Jesus never leaves us. He never forsakes us. He's always here with us. And the joy of the Lord is our strength. Sometimes we smile, sometimes we look like everything is happening right. But you know, sometimes it's just by the grace of God that we are able to smile. However, that said, I want to talk about today's episode. Allow me to talk about overcoming pain from your past. Overcoming pain from your past. Of course, in our last episode, we talked about the beauty of pain. But you see, you cannot see the beauty of pain before you overcome the pain itself. And the pain is something that is associated. The pain is something that we go through all the time. Pain is something that it's not, no human is immune to pain. Even Jesus Christ went through pain. But you know, it gets to a point where we must overcome that pain. We must overcome what we feel. So I am not an expert in how people overcome things, but at least for this one thing, this is my perspective and this is my thinking, and it has worked for me in overcoming pain. Number one, accept that God did not allow the pain in your life to hurt you or to harm you. God allowed that pain for a purpose. Accept. And this acceptance is in line with God's sovereignty. You got to understand that God's sovereignty dictates that He is not answerable to anyone. He does all things. He's in charge of the universe and in charge of all situations and circumstances that happen in our lives, including the pain that we find ourselves to. And I'm saying this with a lot of care because I know probably currently you could be going through pain and you're asking, Rosie, what are you telling me about pain? Like, why are you saying, how can you say that a good God will allow pain in my life or would allow me to suffer? Why would you be saying that? I say this with a lot of sensitivity, but I also want us to understand that God is in charge, as in control of all things, everything that happens in the universe, in your life and in my life. God is always aware. So accept that God is in control. That one, accept. And the acceptance of that then gives you the perspective of God at the bench. Sometimes I look at God as somebody, I look at him as a king or somebody seated at the bench and where there's the good and the bad. So the good things God would give me, obviously. The bad things, He would allow them to happen. Of course, I do not believe that bad things originate from God. The bad things are as a result of my fallen nature, of our human fallen nature, as a result of sin. So God would allow bad things to happen to me for a purpose. So whether good or bad things happen to me, I know that God is in control. I know that God was not found, got unawares. I know that God is in charge. So I accept God's sovereignty. So as I go through the pain, as I go through the hardship, I understand, or I strive to understand, that God is allowing this pain in my life for a purpose. Probably at this particular time, I don't know what purpose that will be. I don't know what purpose is there for sexual assault to happen to someone. I don't know what purpose was there. I don't know what purpose was there for, I know a girls series. I don't know what purpose was there for, uh, you know, FGM. I don't know what purpose was there. But one thing I am confident, extremely confident about is that, you know what? God was there, God saw it, God knew it, and He allowed it. And so I will believe and trust in Him and Him alone. So I have accepted God's sovereignty. Number two, I accept God's forgiveness, because out of that pain, some of us, humanly speaking, people have done things, or I did things, like I chose drugs in all forms of matter, liquid, gas, solid. I chose drugs. So that was my mistake. Out of pain, I overreacted. Out of pain, I did things that were not good. So would I stay there and say, I sinned, I fell, I did this, blah, blah, blah. This is what I did and that's what I did not do. Will I stay there blaming people? No. I accept God's forgiveness. I seek God's forgiveness and accept God's forgiveness. First, seek God's forgiveness on your personal mistake. Own up your personal mistake. Accept God's forgiveness and grow from it. Grow from your um grow from your past mistakes and your past pain and that thing that keeps pulling you down, because those things that we keep on holding onto, it happened to me, I did this, I did that, they block us from going to our destiny. In fact, those are some of the things that personally I call destiny destroyers or destiny barriers, that I can't move on because I have a lot of bitterness in my heart, bitterness about God, bitterness about myself. So, because I don't want to get there, what I do is confess my sins to God, accept God's sovereignty. Out of the pain that I've gone through, I have done mistakes. So I seek God's forgiveness on the same, accept God's forgiveness for myself, and then forgive myself, because you cannot forgive yourself unless you have accepted the forgiveness of God. It begins with knowing and accepting the forgiveness of God. And then when I have learned to forgive myself, then I can forgive others. Please take note. It begins with God. It begins with God. Everything, overcoming pain, begins with God. Accept His sovereignty. Accept that His God is in charge. He knows, He's aware of all things that happens. Out of the pain that you've gone through, and God allowed it, then what happens next is, out of my own reactions, I had a part to play. I seek God's forgiveness for my own sin. I seek God's forgiveness for my own sin. And then God forgives me. And because God forgives me and keeps no record of wrong, I accept that forgiveness that I have received from God. After I have accepted that forgiveness I have received from God, then I am able to forgive those that have participated in my pain. So forgive others. Forgive those who hurt you. Forgive those that have caused you pain. Forgive them, because you know better. You know, probably, they were not probably, actually, it's true that they caused you pain, but you know what? You remember Jesus telling Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Satan." Did Jesus mean that Peter was Satan? No. It is the person that was in operation in Peter's life at that time was Satan. So get behind me, Satan. So these people, yes, they hurt me, they caused me pain, but you see, they were being used by the evil one. So at this point, when you realize that, it is a point of separation. And this point of separation is very key. You separate the real enemy and God's people. Because, child of God, God's people are not your real enemies. Yeah, I am saying that, but I know it's not. Yeah, God's people are not your enemies. Your colleague in the office, that one that if they open their mouth, you just laugh them. That's not your enemy. That's not your real enemy. Your real enemy is the devil himself. And the same way that God uses people is the same way that the enemy uses people. So I hope that God will help you and help me to overcome pain, to overcome my pain by accepting God's will, seeking God's forgiveness, accepting God's forgiveness, forgiving myself, and forgiving others. Thank you so much for being part of Tsalwa YouTube channel. Here we are about vulnerability, acceptance, and hope. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Just subscribe, like surely subscribe. Thank you so much for being part of this family. God bless you.